So Hare Krishna devotees is welcome to ISKCON West, outpost of ISKCON Seshadripuram for the Sunday evening feast program. We have been having Bhagavad Gita classes every Sunday evening. From 6 to 6:30 we have been having Kirtan, and 6:30 to 7:38 we have been having the Bhagavad Gita class. So welcome everyone, and today we have the pleasure of having His Grace Hitesh Madhav Prabhu to give us, enlighten us on the first verse or maybe one or two verses of chapter 6. So far we have completed every single verse up to chapter 5. It's been a wonderful journey past almost 2 to 3 years plus actually, that we have been able to do every single verse in the Sunday evening class. So now we are stepping into the sixth chapter, a wonderful chapter again, and looking forward to hearing from His Grace Hitesh Madhav Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, welcome and thank you for taking up the service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Prabhuji, for giving the opportunity to do this service. And we'll start. Should I start, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, please take over.
ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदाम्यां ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगुणरघुनाथान्वितं तस्य जीवं साद्वैतं सार्वभूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदं सवनमिलिता श्रीशाखायितं तस्य। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपीश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्ते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी विषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे। Prabhu, am I audible enough?
Yes, Prabhu, quite clear.
Oh, thanks. So today I have been instructed by Prabhuji to cover the first sloka of 6th chapter. Basically, we are starting the chapter, 6th chapter, that's Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, we call it Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. So, and earlier 5 sloka, I mean, of course, chapters are there, we have gone through it. So, we'll start first sloka shortly. I'm just projecting the screen. Sixth chapter, first sloka. Sri Bhagavan uvacha anastah karmaphalam karyam karma karoti yaha sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragrina chakriyaha. What meaning? Sri Bhagavan uvacha, the Lord said, anasritaha, without taking shelter, karma phalam, the result of the work, karyam, obligatory, karma, work, karoti, performs, ya, one who, sa, he, sannyasi, in the renounced, cha, also yogi, mystic, cha, also, no, not, ni, without, agni, fire, no, nor, cha, also, akriya, without duty. Translation by Sri Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated in the renounced order of life, and he is true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. In this chapter, the Lord explained that process of Eightfold Yoga system is a means to control the mind and senses. However, this is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. Although Eightfold Yoga system is recommended in this chapter, the Lord emphasizes that process of Karma Yoga or acting Krishna consciousness is better. Everyone acts in this world to maintain his family and their paraphernalia, but no one is working without some self-interest, some personal gratification, be it concentrated or absent. The criteria of perfection is to act in Krishna consciousness and not with view to enjoying the soul. To act in Krishna consciousness is the duty of every living entity because all are constitutionally parts and parts of soul. The parts of body work for sense for the satisfaction of whole body. The limbs of body do not act for self-satisfaction but for satisfaction of the complete whole. Similarly, the living entity who acts for satisfaction of the supreme whole and not for the personal satisfaction is a perfect sannyasi. The sannyasis sometimes artificially think that they have become liberated from all materiality and therefore they cease to perform agni prayagya, high sacrifice. But actually they are all self-interested because their goal is to become one with impersonal Brahma. Such a desire is greater than any materialism, but it is not without self-interest. Similarly, mystic yogi who practice the yoga system with half open eyes, ceasing all material activity, desires some satisfaction for himself. But a person acting in Krishna works for the satisfaction of the whole without self-interest. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for self-satisfaction. His criteria for success is the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus he is a perfect yogi, sannyasi or perfect yogi. Lord Chaitanya, the highest perfection and symbol of renunciation, prays in this way. Jananam jananta sundarim kavitam va jagada isha kamaye mama janmani janma janmishware bhavatat bhaktir ahituki tvai. Oh Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, not to enjoy beauty, nor do I want any number of followers. What I want only is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life or after that. Sri Gopal ki jai. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimade Jayapataka Swami Niti Namne Namo Acharya Padayanitai Krupa Padaye Gaura Katanamataya Nakara Gramataya Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namne Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Kucharini Vishesha Shanyavadi Pashatya Deshat Harini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Vedanta Shiva Sari Gaurav Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. Okay, so we'll start discussion. I'll just once again recite the sloka. Sri Bhagavana Uvacha Anasritaha Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karotiya Sasanyasi Cha Yogi Cha Niragnir Chakriyaha. So, as discussed, like as evident from the title, Dhyana Yoga. So there are various yogas, mainly four types of Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and ultimately Bhakti Yoga. So this we have been discussing. And earlier 5 chapters, especially last 3 chapters, are mainly dealing with Karma Yoga. Lord Krishna is telling about Karma Yoga and mature or perfect version of Karma Yoga, without any self desire, and Jnana Yoga. So mainly Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga, there are two categories mainly. One is people do some karma, some karma people do with some material desire. So Sakam Karma, and there is perfect Karma Yoga is Nishkam Karma. So without any desires. That's the last chapter. And in between there are Jnana Yoga, Jnanis, basically. They are all depend on Jnana, knowledge, and mainly mental. So we'll get into more detail as a part of, just to recap the all these 4 yogas. We'll get into more discussion shortly. And why I'm getting into more discussion, because we are starting the new chapter, Dhyana Yoga, and it's important that we correlate or we recap the earlier like 2 yoga systems which are being discussed. Okay. So we'll do that. So basically, Karma Yoga, as discussed, like it is so I just recap. So basically, we have got material desire. That is why we are in material world. That is known. Okay, we have got material desires. Lord want us to come back to Him, right? But we have got material desires. Now we are not going to leave that material desires so easily. Majority of us. Why? Because that's the mind. Because mind has stored all those desires, and mind keeps releasing those desires, and with the help of senses, mind. And since we are in bodily concept, we are thinking we are mind, and we follow mind, and we keep doing this material desire. So Lord Krishna, Lord has given us the system of slowly coming to Him, because ultimate aim is to go to Him. Why? Because this is not our constitutional position. In a bodily concept, under the influence of false ego, we are trying to enjoy the material nature independently of Krishna, as if we are Lord here, as if we are. So material world means we are thinking artificially that we are God. That's the basic characteristic of material world. We are thinking that we, means conditioned soul, are thinking that we are God, and that's the false ego. And we are denying the authority of God, or we don't care, or some people deny, they are atheists. Some people understand God, yeah, God is there, but I'm also God. Some people say, okay, God, let Him be there, we are here, so we continue doing that. So all that mental problems are there, okay, of denying the God. So karma yoga, so all yogas are basically step-by-step process to go slowly inch towards God realization, and ultimately surrender to God and go back to Lord's abode, where it is said Lord's abode, because Lord Krishna says that many shlokas that you will come to my abode. So in the same shloka, our Dhyana Yoga, which we are starting here also, one shloka says, युजनम एवं सदात्मानं योगी नियतमानसा शांतिम निर्वाण परमाम मत संस्थान अधिगच्छति. मत संस्थानम, मत means Lord Krishna, Lord Krishna. Sansthanam means his abode. So the whole aim is to go back to Lord Krishna, because that is our constitutional nature. Serving the Lord is our constitutional nature. Not serving the Lord and serving ourselves, our senses, is our artificial. It's not artificial. It is artificial. It's not our constitutional nature. So whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita or all the Vedas are basically to give you systematic process to go back to Godhead. So any yoga ultimately has to culminate into God's realization and surrender to God, linking to God. Anything other than is not yoga. So for example, modern Prabhupada writes, and we also see some people do some yoga. They have nothing to know realization, no understanding of God. It's doing for God, connecting with God. They are just doing yoga for bodily platform. This is not the yoga we are referring to. This Dhyana Yoga chapter is not referring to this gymnastic yoga, which Prabhupada has very critiqued many times. And we also understand they are just trying to do some physical exercises, trying to keep body fit, so that once body is fit, we enjoy the senses and again get into deep down the hill. So that's not the yoga this Dhyana Yoga is being referred. Because typically, it's unfortunate in people see yoga means this Ashtanga Yoga. Yoga means there are 4 yogas. Ashtanga Yoga is one of them. And Ashtanga Yoga, people think only gymnastic is another problem. So anyway, so Karma Yoga is basically, I'm just recapping everything so that it becomes easy. So Karma Yoga is basically step-by-step process by doing your duty, and then offering the results of your duty. You might have desires. Some people do it with a lot of calm, means they have got a lot of desire, but still there is a facility given. So that slowly they will renounce that desire. That's the whole expectation. That's the Karma Yoga. And Nishkam Karma Yoga, people still are attached to the work. They are still attached to the work, but they offer the fruit to the Lord. That is good part of it. Okay, but Bhakti Yoga, of course, we'll discuss Bhakti Yoga. Prabhupada brings Bhakti Yoga in the starting, still in the Dhyana Yoga, still he clearly tells what is Bhakti Yoga. I mean, in comparison to Dhyana Yoga. So we'll get into detail. So, and then of course, Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga means, okay, these people are a little bit one step ahead. Or they say, okay, what is the use of doing all this karma and all that? Because anyway, it's a bodily platform. We are not body. What is the use of doing all this? Okay, so they are better. They are trying to understand difference between body and soul. Okay, and they are trying to analyze the whole thing. Based on the various shastras references and all. Not only shastra, they are using their mind also. Okay, so basically in karma yoga, people, so whole process is basically purification. What is that? We have to purify. We are trying to purify our desires. We are trying to purify our mind. This whole yoga system is purification. What is purification? So it is basically burning our mind, burning or purifying our material mind. Okay, material desires, and culminating that material desires to the spiritual. That is our nature. That is serving servant as a servant of Lord Krishna. So whole yoga system is for that. So in karma yoga, what essentially happens is we are doing our duties religiously, and as Lord Krishna mentioned, you do your duty. It is not advisable for you to for one to directly get into detachment or renunciating the thing, because you have many desires. So there are some category of people who need, they have to do the duties. They are attached to duty. They are attached to their food. They are attached to material desires. So they have to continue doing it. But in that process, slowly their attachment to the fruits has to go away, and then that's the whole expectation. So they get purified by doing the work, doing their work, and offering the fruits of the work to the Lord, because Lord is the Yajna Purusha. Lord is the Yajna Purusha. Okay, so so this is karma yoga. We can understand what is karma yoga. Then Jnana yoga, again, I'll come back to Jnana yoga now. Basically, they are trying to distinguish soul, body, and they are trying to understand God. They don't accept directly, okay, God is a person, Lord Krishna. They say, okay, God is impersonal. I am also God. Ultimately, it's all pervasive, super consciousness. Something they will use, which is not. So basically, so they have got different, very primitive concept of God. They are not able to appreciate that God could be the person, or he could be the supreme person. They don't accept that. But that's an unfortunate part, or whatever may be the case. But okay, but it's not wrong. That philosophy, that is not wrong. They are also transcendentalists. So because Lord God's, there are three features like impersonal, all pervasive impersonal, localized Paramatma, and Supreme Bhagwan person. So they are not able to appreciate Bhagwan part, Supreme person, but they believe into all pervasive impersonal. They say we are also part of that God. Actually, we are parts and parcels. We are part and parcels of God. So that way, yes. So ultimately, they want to merge in existence of super consciousness, or whatever you call it, and that is their way of doing the thing. But of course, they are transcendentalists. So they are trying to cease from this activity. They are trying to minimize the activities. Okay, they are trying to minimize the activities, and trying to gain more about, understand more about soul, relation between soul, Paramatma. Okay, so basically, um, third is then Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. So here will come now. Now here, Prabhupada explains here. Lord explained that process of Eightfold Yoga system is means to control the mind and senses. So we know Ashtanga Yoga. We have heard about it. Yama, Niyama, Pratyahara, Dhana, Dhyana, Dharana, Samadhi, and something. I missed one, but there are 8 steps, step by step. So Yama, Niyam, so initial rules and regulation, Niyam, do's and don'ts, and then slowly they will. Samadhi means basically, Samadhi, Prabhupada explains it. Samadhi means actually attaining the consciousness of Krishna. That's a Samadhi. So Samadhi, what we have been seeing some movies or some understanding is Samadhi means some closed eyes and all that, but actually it's absorbing the consciousness into the Krishna. That's ultimate. But again, Dhyana Yoga. So Prabhupada mentions here. Eightfold Yoga system means to control the mind and senses. However, this is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. Although the eightfold yoga system is recommended in this chapter, the Lord emphasizes that the process of karma yoga and acting in Krishna consciousness is better. Okay, so here Prabhupada explains in the purport very clearly. Dhyana yoga is this chapter's main agenda. And Dhyana yoga, we have understood, Prabhupada explains more that Dhyana yoga is basically to control the mind. And what we'll do by controlling the mind? See, controlling the mind is only one step. Controlling the mind is not the ultimate aim. Controlling the mind is a means. So basically, by controlling mind, what we are going to do? That is why we should say. Actually, yes, I understand karma yoga, dhyana. There's a lot of these concepts are there. Philosophy may be complicated sometimes to understand for people like us. But if you read Prabhupada book and stick to very basic, which Prabhupada has made us to stick to basics, we can easily understand. They are controlling the mind, but what is the final aim? Final aim has to be something tangible, correct? So we can also understand. Say, for example, controlling mind, bhakti. If you compare with bhakti yoga, we say that our ultimate aim is to serve Lord Krishna. That is our constitutional nature. So easy to understand. So we are also controlling mind. Our method is very simple. Bhakti yogi method is very simple, transcendental, 100% transcendental. Okay, so that is a way we can easily understand by Prabhupada's purport. That is how he has, he blessed us by his philosophy. It's very easy to understand. Because Dhyana yoga, we can understand what is the imperfection in terms of it's not ultimate yoga. Why? Because after controlling mind, there has to be some purpose. So they are also trying to control the mind and ultimately trying to absorb into the super consciousness or consciousness in Lord. So ultimately they are trying to link to God. So Samadhi means actually Prabhupada explains the whole purpose is to ultimately start gaining the consciousness of Lord Krishna. So that's the purpose of Dhyana. Purpose of Dhyana is that only. But the method is basically they are mechanical. It's a mechanical process. Prabhupada mentions somewhere in this purpose that it's a mechanical process. Why mechanical? Because they understand yama niyam. They are doing a lot of pranayam, lot of yama niyam asanas. So we can understand. So they are trying to control the body mechanism, mind in this, and then training the mind to control the body and senses. And once the mind is getting controlled, it's becoming silent. Like for example, if there is a river, if you put stones, there will be ripples. But then once that ripples, then you can see the bottom. So like that, Dhyana yogis are trying to attain that tranquility or making the mind calm, because the mind is a whole reservoir of troubles. I'll not use the word trouble. Mind is not necessarily reservoir of troubles. The mind is a reservoir of all these material consciousness, I will say, because it's all program, all thinking, willing, feeling, all our desires, everything ultimately gets coded into mind, and mind keeps decoding the whole thing to bring back those desires, and it starts running to satisfy that. We start running to satisfy mind's desire. It's a mind's desire, which mind has stored, but since we are attached to mind, we follow mind, and we, as if we are trying to satisfy desire, but we don't get satisfied because that's not we. Okay, so basically, Ashtanga yoga, all this is basically mechanical because that is the way they are trying to do. But still there is a desire. Prabhupada, so I'll get into this purport now shortly. Prabhupada mentions, see, they are not ultimate. Prabhupada explains very clearly. Just a minute, I'm just trying to find it out. Why they are not perfect? Because there are still desires. That's what the whole point is. So karma yoga is easy to understand. Still they have got desires of doing karma, getting the fruit, credit of their fruit, enjoying the fruit. So we can easily understand karma yoga, karma marga is basically they have got a lot of still desires. Okay, they are still trying to maintain that desire, but then slowly they are going to perfection. We can understand it. Okay, the Jnana yogi, what is the desire? So they have still have got desire of merging into Lord or getting rid of material encatchment or merging into Lord is still desire. Of course, that is much more better desire than karma yogis because they are actually going towards better way. Okay, so the Jnana yogi people also have got desires. So this is not 100% desire free. So Prabhupada is making point here because just a minute. I'm just trying to open up that particular actual sentence. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay. Everyone acts in this world to maintain his family and their paranoia, but no one is working without self-interest. Some personal strategy to be considered extended. The criteria of prospection is to act in Krishna consciousness. Okay. Um, the sannyasis sometimes artificially think that they have become liberated from material duty and therefore they cease to perform Agnihotra. But actually they are self-interested because they are used to goal is to become one with impersonal Brahma. So Prabhupada clearly mentioned their goal is just they still desire to become one with impersonal. So that's still desire. And we can easily understand that they are not fully desireless. Okay. Then, similarly, mystic yogi who practices yoga system half open eyes, seizing all material activity, desires some satisfaction of his personal self. So, yogis are also doing this dhyana yoga to control the mind, to somehow they have got that personal desires of becoming happy or whatever you call or getting liberated from all this. They will vocally nobody is saying that we are desiring only devotees. Bhakti yogi people say we don't care for our desires. I'm talking about pure devotee. Uh, Not Chaitanya. Of course, he was Lord, but then he demonstrated as a na dhanam na ganam na sundari. So he is very clearly saying that I do not have any desire for myself. What I do only is to, without any desire, I want to serve Lord. Okay, bhaktir aitukitvayi. So I give me your pure devotional service. That's what he's requesting. So basically, it's locally its agenda is very clear. Bhakti yoga agenda. We don't want to merge in personal existence. We don't mind doing any karma. We don't want to doing not doing any karma. We don't want anything specific. We let there be desire. I mean, let there be activities which are apparently looking like sensual activity. I mean, senses related activity. Devotee doesn't say कि I will not work or I work. He said whatever comes I will utilize for Lord. Sometimes Lord Krishna may make me sit in, and then do only his bhakti I will do. Sometimes Lord Krishna make me work for hard work, for physically hard work I will do because ultimate aim is to serve Lord Krishna. Okay, whatever is needed, we will read all philosophy, we will get into knowledge, but to solve Lord Krishna, we will not get into mental speculation. So if we have to read so many books and get the knowledge of Vedas, we'll do because that is to serve Lord Krishna, not to read the books itself and enjoy there itself. Okay, so there is a huge difference. So we need to understand. So why we are trying to deal on this is very because it's a start of chapter. So I'm not getting into details of that particular sloka, which is we are trying to cover indirectly. But basically, we need to correlate. Then only we can easily compare. So and we need to understand. See, we need to understand the unparalleled, authority of Srila Prabhupada. Why? And we have to use our own intelligence also to understand how Prabhupada has given us this all these blessings I will say because he has perfectly explained it to the very elemental level. Otherwise it's very difficult to understand this because Jnana Yogi is apparently looks like Jnana Yogi are reading so many books and Bhakti Yogi we are also reading so many books. In fact, Prabhupada's number of books will be compared to your Jnana Yogi's book. I'm just guessing. There is huge philosophy. Who says we are not interested in knowledge? We are Jnana Yogis, but we are not only Jnana Yogis. We are actually Bhakti Yogis. So Bhakti Yoga encompasses everything what others are doing. So such a huge volumes of book. So yeah, we need to gain knowledge, but ultimately it is to serve Lord Krishna. We have got so many activities. Devotees are busy day and night. We are working those tasks. Devotees are busy. So who says we are not karma? We are also doing karma. We are working in companies. We are building temples or everything we are doing with others. So we are not karma. We are karma. We are also doing same thing. But in fact, devotees are working hard. I mean, we have seen many temple brahmachari devotees. They work so hard than even so-called karmis or karma yogi. Why? Because they are trying to serve Lord. So whole purpose is different, objective is different. So only by Prabhupada's mercy only we could have understood. the very subtle differences between these four yoga. Otherwise, we'll say everything is same. Oh, I am working. I mean, before coming to Krishna consciousness, ISKCON's this thing, we used to think we'll go to duty. We are working hard. We used to go to duty or we'll do something, and we are happy. We are doing karma yoga. I'm doing my I'm doing karma yoga. I'm reading so many books. I'm doing that. But that's not the case because yoga means to link with laundry. Is there any Lord Krishna's reference here? If there is no reference, that's not yoga. Okay, so that's so basically what we need to understand is we have to understand the subtle differences between these yoga, which in line with what Prabhupada has mentioned every now and then. So in this first sloka, Prabhupada is clearly mentioning what is the difference. The difference between these yoga, what makes Bhakti Yoga unique. What makes Bhakti Yogi unique is basically he's completely free from desires for his own self and he's completely doubted in the desire of Lord Krishna. We are not desireless. We are free from the self desires and doubted or desire to Lord Krishna. While other three yogis are still long way to go or short way to whatever may be the case in terms of actually serving the Lord. Of course, they are also going towards it. Ashtanga is very close because ultimately after control he is getting into absorbing to consciousness. It's very close serving the Lord, but it's not exactly there. So that is the way we should understand. So we should understand how this yoga also purifies us. So karma yoga, as discussed, karma yogi is purified by their work itself and offering the fruits to the Lord. So that slowly their desire to enjoy alone gets slowly it happens. Jnana yogi gets purified by their own whole knowledge itself, knowledge of all this. So slowly gets, but then still that desire is there, so they don't fully attend them. Ashtanga yogi, they purifies the mind ultimately, so they gets purified by their actual direct mechanical whatever maybe they get, but they get uh, purified by the process itself. Okay, but bhakti yogis are basically we are getting purified or we are completely coming out of material desires because we are surrendering all our desires to God. So that is like a hitting on the nail because Ashtanga yogi, what will the ultimate samadhi means aim of Ashtanga yoga? Basically, they will realize Vishnu, who is localized Paramatma in the heart, and they will actually see the Lord Vishnu. That's what I read somewhere, heard some in one of the lectures of beauty. Ashtanga yoga, ultimately they'll see the Lord Vishnu um, at the end of Samadhi. That's Dhruva Maharaj is an example. He started very ghor tapasya, and ultimately he saw he was witnessing that. But then of course he had a personal presence of Lord by mercy of Narada Muni. But what I'm saying is, Ashtanga yogi actually see the Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu in their in the Samadhi state. But Bhakti Yoga is beyond that. Because we are not talking about only Lord Vishnu, talking about Lord Krishna, who is the origin of all avtaras, all leelas. We get into much more details and it's more personal. And we are doubting all desires and it's a full of activities. So that is why you can understand how Bhakti Yogi goes one step further. And then basically, we are not only dealing with localized Paramatma, we are dealing with the Bhagwan aspect also, which is basically we understand Creator, we understand creation, we understand soul, ourselves, and their correlation, their relation between themselves. So why? Because that is what last chapter ends with. Last chapter ends with what? I just read that here. Voktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram surudam sarvabhutanam natva mam shantim jati. Shanti means peace. So who will be the best person to have peace? Devotee. Why? Because he understands that it is ultimately Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna is a Bhaktaram Yagya Tapasam, and he's talking about Purush, he's talking about personal feature. This shloka cannot be impersonal. No, Bhaktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarvalokam Maheshwaram. He's a personal. Lord Krishna is telling, and he's a Bhaktaram Yagya. He's calling somebody like this shloka. That I am the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. I am the. So he's a person. So Lord, once devotee understand he's a person, and he realizes that way. That is why he is ultimately peaceful. Others are still having those problems of they may not be 100% probably peaceful because they are not still hitting that nail of ultimately sacrificing everything to Lord Krishna as a person. and participating in serving Him. So that's why. So we need to. This is where we can understand how ultimately the whole peace will come. Peace formula is this. Peace formula is basically understanding that Lord Krishna is the proprietor of everything. Understanding that Lord Krishna is a enjoyer every all sacrifices, and we are also His creation. And third is we are also His creation. So by understanding all these three things, tripod we can say, like who am I? Soul. Lord Krishna is there for soul and creation, and their purpose and how they are correlated, and ultimately understanding that it's Lord Krishna is the enjoyer, ultimately he is a proprietor, and I am his servant. Once we get into this understanding very clearly, tranquility has to come. Mind will get, because otherwise that's the whole problem. Suppose, for example, if I think, oh, I am the doer, I'm doer the business, I'm doing the job, I'm getting these technologies invented. Oh, I'm doing that. So obviously you are not doing that. We are utilizing the resources of Lord Krishna, and we are actually a little bit manipulating. And even that manipulation also is happened by mind, which is also given by Lord Krishna. Intelligence also comes by Lord Krishna. So all resources we are using, we are just user trying to do something, but we may think it is, I am inventing it. But why there will not be peace if you don't agree that Lord Krishna is a proprietor? Because some point of time things will not work the way we want, and that happens, and then frustration comes. But then, if you are saying, then that's the whole problem of chaos in the today's world, because we are thinking, I am doing, things are not going as per our own way. They are not going. They will not go. Some point of time they will not go, and then we have frustration, depressions, lot of conflict. Why? Because we are thinking I'm the controller. We are not the controller. So if you think I'm not the controller, so Lord Krishna is controller, is a question of conflicts here. Whatever Lord Krishna does, it will happen. The material nature will do its duty. I'm just using it. Whatever happens as per Lord Krishna's desire will happen. So automatically this peacefulness will come, and this we can experience in day-to-day life. The in some particular moment, if we are thinking I'm the doer, we are always under anxiety. At least all of us should have seen this. We are always under anxiety because we are thinking I'm the doer. That is my problem. That is our problem. But if you are thinking, oh, whatever Lord Krishna does, he will do. He will do. Let him do whatever he wants for me, and then I am his servant. So obviously that peacefulness will come. It takes time but that is a practical thing. All of us would have been experiencing by this time, slowly, in small way or big way, whatever may be the case. So, no, so like that. So, and secondly, fruits. So again, if we don't think Lord Krishna is a Bhaktaram Yadyatatsa, he is the ultimate enjoyer of the sacrifices. Then again, same problem. Sometimes we doesn't get the fruit with what we want. Then we get frustrated because we are thinking, I am the enjoyer of my work. I am the enjoyer of fruits of my work. Or sometimes, fruits will not come. They will say, why it will not come? Because it will not come. It is not happening as per our will. It is decided based on our, karma. So fruits will come based on karma, which is ultimately controlled by Maya, and which is ultimately controlled by Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna has to sanction whatever we get. Lord Krishna has to sanction. So that is where we have to understand. So obviously frustration will go away if you are calm and quiet, saying that okay, whatever fruits come will come. It doesn't come, fine. It's Lord Krishna's desire. Once we doubt our desire to Lord Krishna, obviously we ourselves will not have any desire. Once you let go by the Lord Krishna, our desire is to go by desire of Lord Krishna. That is also desire, but that is very transcendental desire. So obviously that peace will come. So this is where we are connecting to Lord Krishna in various yogas. Correct. So that's what we are seeing. So basically, I think this shloka I have covered it this way. I have gone a little bit in generic way because it's for the start of chapter. And but then we have covered most of the purports, Prabhupada's point. So initial part of purport, Prabhupada says that eightfold Ashtanga Yoga is not practically possible in this yet. Easily we can understand. We cannot even sit for half an hour, forget 10 minutes close eye, we can't sit. There will be a lot of disturbances, this, that. So impossible. Prabhupada clearly mentions that. He tells that ultimately the control aim of the Ashtanga Yoga system is to control the mind, and ultimately by controlling mind, actually you are getting the consciousness of Krishna, or at least localized Paramatma. That is a samadhi. So the aim is clearly mentioned in Prabhupada. And Prabhupada mentions this as a holistic way because the next shlokas of chapter actually says that ultimately you need to come to me by doing this Ashtanga Yoga. Lord Krishna says that. He's saying that many places. And 15 shloka I read just now, that you will come to my samsthana, means you will come to me. Means ultimately aim is to that only. Okay, so why not to adopt direct way? Okay, then Prabhupada mentions what is the problem with why they are not desireless other yogas, because they have got some desires, material desires, some enjoying desire, or merging with Lord impersonal Brahman, or some personal desire. But Bhakti Yoga yogi, pure devotee will not have any desire because he has the ultimate desire to Lord. So he has got desire, but he has got desire to satisfy Lord. So that is the way it is practically no desire for self. So he clearly says that how Bhakti Yoga is ultimate is clearly done because it is purely we are coming out of material desire. That contamination is purely gone. And we have seen in Bhagavatam also and throughout all Puranas we have seen this. So ultimately the desire has to be killed. Otherwise sins will not go away. Artificially, atonement or doing something very preventing something or suppressing something artificial will not help because desire is not there. They are going to again rebound that. So it's all about controlling the desire or eliminating desires. We don't talk about eliminating, we are talking about doubting the desire to Krishna desire. That is our way of becoming desireless. That is a real, so that is a real, that seed has gone, that weeds have gone. And that's why there is no sins and we can come out of this. Otherwise, other yogis, the problem is there are some weeds of self-desire and they will feel they are not removed, it will continue getting into that cycle of this thing probably. Of course, they are transcendental, they are much more higher than karmi or atheists, but we need to understand this because it's important to understand technically what is the difference between these yogis and why Bhakti Yoga is superior. Why Prabhupada is clearly bringing that point again and again because we should not get carried away by Jnana Yoga, reading books. Reading books will not help you because desire has to go away. So like that, I'm just giving them. And then Prabhupada concludes the chapter purport by quoting Lord Chaitanya's one of the Shishashtakam slokas, Nadananda. So he's saying that I want to live a complete service without any. So that is what Prabhupada clears, and this is the way. And then the next slokas, as we go further, we'll be dealing with what exactly is the Dhyana Yoga, what is the purpose of it, as I mentioned. But consequently, the last sloka of this it clearly again tells yoginam api sarvesham mat gate antaratmana sabdavan bhajate yomam samay yuktamato mataha. Means first shloka deals with starting of Jnana Yoga and ultimately chapter ends with saying that who is the ultimate yogi? Ultimate yogi is Bhakti Yogi, clearly given by Lord Krishna. So that answer is given, and throughout purport of Prabhupada will understand going through that how Bhakti Yoga is the best, and Prabhupada also mentioned that. So that is what I wanted to share today, and so we can. I will request Prabhuji to comment or correct further, and further question and answer we can take. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So nice summary of whatever Prabhupada had actually indicated there. You also connected it nicely to the point of why stress on Bhakti Yoga, including the last verse in the 6th chapter, which you highlighted to make the point very clear. So the point is, like here Prabhupada mentions, someone who's named as a sannyasi is fine, but that doesn't mean, unless you are able to be in that spirit exactly, then you are actually a sannyasi, otherwise not. So he says, no, many of these so-called sannyasis, they stop performing all the activities. If you see the Vedas, the Vedas prescribe many duties, prescribed duties as mentioned. These prescribed duties are to be performed, what do you call the rituals needs to be performed if you are in the Karma Yoga concept of life. Like if you are in Karma Yoga, then to atone or, there are these kind of things. 95% of the activities mentioned in the Vedas are called Karma Kanda. That means what are the rituals to be performed when one is situated in karmic activity. So if you are called a sannyasi, the expectation is you are not in Karma Kanda. Right? Therefore, you don't have to do any of these things. Right? It's logical, right? If you are, if you have to do if you do a particular thing, then you need to do certain things. If you don't do that thing, the related activity is not supposed to be done by you. That's very simple, right? If you are working in an office, if your job is to be heading a particular division, then your job is to do that only. There may be so many things prescribed for so many other people, but not that everybody has to do that, because I have nothing to do with this particular department's job, so I don't have to follow those aspects, right? It's like that. The same thing. Karma Yoga, the Vedas, a lot of this Karma Kanda section of the Vedas are meant for those people who are following this fruitive activities or Karma Kanda. And if you are not, you don't have to do. Therefore, a sannyasi is typically not supposed to be involved in the Karma Kanda, and therefore they don't do it. That's why that the Agnihotra sacrifices, it's mentioned they don't perform. But again, Prabhupada is clarifying, but you are still somewhere connected to Karma Kanda means sense gratification. And therefore, these guys who claim to be sannyasis, if they are not typically following the Bhakti Yoga sannyasa, as Bhakti Yoga means defined as love for God without any desire for material sense gratification. That's the definition of nectar of devotion, right? It's, what is that? That verse is there. Karma anavritam anukulena krishnanusilanam bhakti uttamam. So that's the point. That means you have to perform devotional service anukulya, which means favorably and without any anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanusevanam bhakti uttamam. That means with anyabhilashita shunyam means thinking that shunyam, that means the Mayavad philosophy. Neither you should be in that state of Mayavad. That means you are a sannyasi in the state of oneness with God, as in God is zero. Anyabhilashita shunyam. Then this jnana karmadi anavritam. That means you are either in the concept of jnani, like is being mentioned. Karma, of course, sannyasis don't think to be karmic, but they could be either in the jnani section or in the first section, where you may be a impersonalist. That means one who is thinking of God to be something which is some power of which you are also the same. That kind of a thinking. Mostly these kind of fellows can also be a sannyasi. Take what you call externally when you see them as a sannyasi, but they are not desireless. Therefore, you are still within the purview of having to perform the rituals, but they don't do it. But externally, a person may not look like in the renounced order. That means with the robes and whatever associated danda and all that. But if he is not having this, but he is having this concept of clear understanding that there should be no desire for material gratification, because these two are also material. Prabhu clarified very clearly. Even yogi desire is to get mystic powers, and that is also to get that's subtle part of mind and intelligence, to satisfy that. So that is also for us only. We may not be looking like that, but that's there. Jnani also, the interest in acquiring knowledge for that mind and intelligence. But this guy, the Bhakti yogi, he is not interested in any of these things, everything for dovetailing for Krishna. So that's the important thing. For him, there is no need for performing any karma kanda activities. But everybody else has to perform. And if someone is in that platform of doing everything without any attachment and completely desireless, he is a actual definition yogi, not by his dress. Sometimes some of these persons can be a grahastha also, or whatever, but he is completely can be considered as a sannyasi. That's something which we need to understand. So sannyasi definition is not someone who wears a dress, but who is able to be completely desireless. So that's important. So otherwise, I think Prabhu has covered everything. So nice. And the whole thing, like, if someone thinks this chapter I will learn yogasana, then sometimes people may be disappointed because this does not teach yogasana, but it tells you what are the prerequisites for someone to be performing this, following this method of yoga, because that's one of the authorized one. It's not that yogasana is banned. No, yogasana is one of the authorized one. Only in terms of whether that is practical, we need to understand. So whether you have the qualification to perform yogasana, that first we learn. Krishna is actually talking about that. If you go down further and thing, in this chapter, Krishna talks about the qualification to follow that method to reach Krishna. And here you said, right, the yogi, Prabhu was saying, yogi, he sees within. Within means what he sees within. Inside you see the Paramatma. So their job is to, or their desire is to see the Paramatma inside the heart, because Krishna is as Paramatma sitting inside the heart. But other one is the Bhagavan aspect you spoke, who's not inside, who's, okay, he's inside is there, but Bhagavan is someone who's sitting peacefully elsewhere. Here is only a representative of him is sitting as the Paramatma inside the heart. But that original Bhagavan is sitting, enjoying life in Golok Vrindavan. So that's what the devotee is aiming for. But a yogi aims for the Paramatma feature of the Lord. So he looks inside. So and of all the yogis, yoginam api sarvesham, that verse is very nice. So Prabhupada, as usual, does not waste time in going into the details of, okay, therefore you can perform yoga like this, but he goes to the summary of what Krishna is saying. After telling all that, he says, but then this yogi who is actually very dear to me, who is serving me, I am very close to him, he is very close to me. And in my opinion, he is the best yogi. Krishna says that. Yoginam api sarvesham. So he concludes like that, but he gives the qualification for someone to follow the Ashtanga Yoga process. If you see that, you will say, I am not the candidate for that. For sure, every one of us will say that. Because that's not something which we can easily do. Hare Krishna.
Hare, thanks for this. I think that Hare. Any question, comments, suggestion, answer?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Dandavad.
Thanks for more clarity on Ashtanga Yoga and how it is so important to migrate one from give up this Ashtanga Yoga, which is not possible in this present situation. Vizra Prabhu gave more, much clarity on yogi and sannyasi. Even as one point, regarding sannyasi. If the sannyasi is focusing towards, let me attain that Brahma Jyoti, only to that level of thinking of the process, that is also condemned. They should go beyond that for the satisfaction of Krishna, and those clarity really wonderful. And you started with Dhyana Yoga, and many people said. So dhyana means just simply, sit in one place and think of nothing. Practically, which is, how it is practically possible in today's situation. So Prabhupada very nicely and you have explained very beautifully that process which is not possible, and how to connect that to Krishna. That is a key point what you mentioned very clearly. Dhyana, okay, but how to perform that dhyana here? So many other as in the Ashtanga Yoga, he was mentioning. Kapil Prabhu was mentioning about all this process, how to do meditation and how to keep focus on this each and everything. So all these 8 process, but this particular Dhyana Yoga, which gives the next dimension of how to get into this devotional process. Thanks, Hare Krishna.
Just want to add one more thing. So here,
Yes.
Prabhu was saying, like Achyuta Prabhu when he was speaking, he was saying, right, even those who are looking to achieve the Brahma Jyoti, that is condemned. So one may immediately ask, why is that condemned? See, attaining Brahma Jyoti, like that is like reaching, that's also considered spiritual platform, right? So then where is the question of what is he actually looking for? He is only looking for the Brahma Jyoti. So that is the refined, more even refined. See, in Brahma Jyoti, when you are thinking of Brahma Jyoti, what is it that you are looking at? You are looking at basically escaping from here and going there, and there's nothing that, so it's about a higher status, right? But on the contrary, serving the Lord, that definition versus Brahma Jyoti, if you are to see, when you are in Brahma Jyoti, your expectation is, I am escaping these threefold miseries in the material world. I will go there to the Brahma Jyoti where there is nothing more required of me. I can simply sit and enjoy. I am in ecstatic state, whatever you may think like that. But when you are saying I am here to satisfy the Supreme Lord, that necessarily need not mean that you are going to be in ecstatic status. Like the Lord may send you to go and preach in India, and it becomes a very horrible to preach in India. You are put to so much difficulties. It's not going to be easy. So that means it's not about you. It's not about your enjoyment. It is about the Lord's enjoyment. Because the Lord wants that you go and preach or whatever he says, but that does not specifically give happiness to your senses. Like, if you are sitting and like Prabhupada, when he is traveling all the way to America to preach at the age of 70 plus. Now, if you have a heart attack, you can't say this is blissful for me, right? I am really enjoying this heart attack. It is paining there for you. But then his intention is that, I don't care. It is not for my senses that I should take care. I would rather have been somewhere in a nice metropolitan city where there's every doctor. I can immediately go home, go there and lie down, and then they can start treating me. No, he didn't bother about that. So there is a lot of difficulties also possible when you are in this state of devotion, but you don't care. That's the purest form of saying, I have no material desires. That means, or rather, I am actually interested in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a huge difference. Someone saying, I want to get out of all of these things and go and sit in Brahma Jyoti, because your clear understanding is, in Brahma Jyoti, there's nothing, just bliss. That means I am going to get bliss. But here, I am going to serve the Lord. It can be whatever. Like, in this Sikshashtakam that Prabhu's, Prabhupada is quoted, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he keeps going, Nandanam, Najanam, Sundari, and the last one, he will actually say, oh Lord, even if you kick me, I don't bother. Your lotus feet is my only shelter. So that's a different state than saying, I want to escape everything, simply sit in that ecstatic light and then feel so much blissful like that. That's more for me person. Me as a person want to enjoy that ecstatic status. But that is not the actual definition when we say no sense gratification, or when we say for the gratification of Krishna's senses. Nice you brought this point, that specific word, Prabhu, which prompted me to actually think in that line. That's very important. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranams. Thanks for the wonderful explanation. The triangulation, soul, creation, creator, and the relationship, and the four levels of yoga system, and emphasizing that Bhakti Yoga is the best direct worship, shorter route. And yeah, thanks, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare.
And sometimes this yogis, they are behind, that siddhis. They want, perfection and bringing out something. Keep on doing, so much of penance for the to exhibit, how great yogi I am. So if they will not, culminate with this particular devotional service, like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned, then that process also fails. They could not be called as a true yogi. The one who meditate on Lord's service and the bhakti marga. So through that, they could be a perfect yogi or perfect sannyasi. Otherwise, even that such a mystic yogis, they want to bring out something from their mouth, and they want to predict what is happening some millions of kilometers away, like that. So the one who, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned, so the perfection to the absolute or the marching towards the perfection is devotional service, like that. That should be the conclusion for either sannyasi or even to the yogi. If that process is not in the center, then everything is failed or waste. Correct. Yes. Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so if there are no further points or questions, we can conclude here. Just wanted to remind everyone that we have having this morning 6 to 7:30 chanting session. So whatever time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or even 1 hour, whatever time devotees want to do, we can join. And maybe right now 6-7 devotees are chanting every day from 6 to 7:30 it is there. Whatever time you get, even if it is 15 minutes, that's okay. Similarly, evening we have started this book reading session. That means from 7:30 to 8, and we are reading Prabhupada Leelamrita. Very blissful reading Prabhupada's life history. This is I was explaining yesterday to Arya Prabhu, that Prabhupada's life gives that conviction for us, why sometimes we may not even get the philosophy. Okay, yeah, it is all. But then when you are seeing the person whose life is such an amazing life, that's like amazing to read. And that gives us so much of conviction to take up Krishna consciousness. And we have many products of just simply by understanding Prabhupada's life, many people have become very wonderful devotees. All of us are also part of that kind of Prabhupada's influences there by just going through his life. So Prabhupada Leelamrita is happening. So 7:30, sometimes we may be driving, we may not be eating. Whenever that's also okay, you don't have to read. We can be in listening mode. If we can join, whoever can join, most welcome. Hare Krishna. And maybe, new thought that our Amarendra Prabhu is thinking after the chanting session, he wants to have 15 minutes Bhagavad Gita, that would be a third session, mostly targeted, even not mostly all of us can also, but the more also on the newer people may like to, our children and all. You have one sloka translation, and then the word-to-word meaning translation and purport. Just one sloka per day. So he is thinking we will start that maybe 7 to 7:15 or 7:15 to 7:30 or 7:30 to 7:45 every day. So that is still in the works. Most probably we will start that. So we have 3 sessions on a day-to-day basis, not only on Sunday. Then we will see how it goes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thanks.
Krishna. Thank you.
Prabhu, I'll send the poster maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow morning.
Sure, Prabhu.
I'll share it with you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
We'll close. Thank you, Hitesh Madhav Prabhu, for your wonderful class. All of us really got nice understanding of the subject matter. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Jai Sri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, devotees.